What's good, y'all? The NBA season is finally upon us. At the time I'm dropping this video, tomorrow night is opening night. We get to see the NBA back in action, and I'm super excited. And right before the season starts, I figured I might as well put out my predictions for all the major awards this season. I'm gonna be going over my picks for MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man, Most Improved, all of the major awards. It should be a lot of fun though. I'm super excited for this NBA season. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all the videos I'll be dropping this regular season. And let's just jump right into it. Let's start off with the heavy hitters. Let's see my picks for MVP. My pick for MVP this season is Luka Doncic. In second, I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and in third, I have Nikola Jokic. Coming off a finals appearance that was pretty disappointing for the Dallas Mavericks, I feel like Luka Doncic is going to come into this season with a lot of hunger and a lot of ferocity. I think he's going to be coming in here trying to prove a point, trying to get back to that finals level, and through that and his play, I think he's going to be one of the favorites for MVP. He's been one of the guys that you always pick in the preseason for the last few seasons now. He is one of the best players in the entire world. Arguably top 2 if you ask me right now. And I think the Dallas Mavericks are going to be pretty good like they were last year. I think they're going to be a top 4 seed out west. And I think Luka is going to be the main contributor to that, putting up near triple doubles, you know, almost 30-point triple doubles every night is what he puts up. So when you have the numbers, when you have the winning, when you have the narrative, I feel like it kind of just all lines up for Luka to finally win his first MVP. If it's not Luka though, I could definitely see Shai getting an MVP this year because a lot of the same reasons I was talking about with Luka. When you talk about numbers, Shai is a guy that will give you 35 and 5 a night. He'll put in like 2 steals there too as a two-way player. I also think the Thunder are going to be the #1 seed out west this year, and the recipe to win an MVP is to be the best player on the best team, and if that happens, Shai will be that, and like I said, he will put up the numbers to back that up as well. And then in third, I have Nikola Jokic. I feel like a lot of people are kind of overestimating the loss of KCP and are expecting the Nuggets to kind of take a step back. I still think the Nuggets are going to be one of the top teams out west. And when you tie in that narrative of they were supposed to disappoint, but Jokic is putting up crazy numbers to keep them up as a top seed, I feel like that could kind of boost him to get MVPs. I don't know if he really will be getting another MVP in his career though, because he already has 3, and there's not a lot of players in history to have 4 MVPs. I still think he's gonna get votes though. I think he's gonna put up numbers to really be that in the conversation, and I do think he still is the best player in the world, so I had to put him at least top 3. And for most of these awards, I just have my top 3 picks, but for MVP, I do have 2 honorable mentions. The first one is Jalen Brunson. I think the Knicks are going to be one of the top seeds out east, and I think they're going to be a juggernaut offensively ran by Jalen Brunson. Last year, he put up crazy numbers. This year, with the additions of Cat, Mikal Bridges, I feel like those numbers are only going to go up, so I feel like he could definitely be in the conversation. And the other honorable mention was Giannis Antetokounmpo. Last year, he had arguably the best season of his career and ended up 4th in MVP voting. I feel like there's a little bit of voters fatigue for Giannis. We are kind of used to his greatness at this point, unfortunately for him. But I do think that he's going to be able to put up the numbers to be in the conversation. The next award we have is Rookie of the Year, and I have Zach Edey winning this one. Reed Shepherd I have coming in second, and then Modest Buzelis rounds out the top 3. Rookie of the Year was one of the more interesting awards to really kind of predict because this is a weaker draft class and there's not that #1 guy that kind of outshines everyone else to be the favorite to win. But I still want to go with Zach Edey, and I think he's the betting favorite, so I kind of am picking the favorite still. Coming into the draft process, I was really low on Zach Edey, but after watching him in Summer League and preseason with the Memphis Grizzlies, I'm really high on him. I think he's going to be a guy that can average basically a double-double. The rebounds are going to be there with his size. He's a very good rebounder. And then I think he's going to be able to just get some easy points by running in the pick and roll with John Morant. The offensive rebounds, putbacks right there, you know, that could be pretty easy to get a few points per game. And then also when it's late in the shot clock, they could just dump it down to him. He does his little hook shot thing that's damn near unguardable because he's 7'5". And then, you know, I think he's going to have the numbers up there. I think he's going to be on a good team and he's going to be impacting winning. So I think he could win Rookie of the Year. Similarly with Zach, but to a lesser degree, I think Reed Shepherd could be on a pretty good team. I think the Houston Rockets are going to surprise a few people this season and be be a very solid playoff team. And I think Reed Shepherd is going to be a pretty big contributor for that too, coming off their bench, being that offensive weapon, being that shooter, that secondary ball handler. I think he's going to have a lot of numbers offensively that he's going to put up in his rookie season to get him a few votes. And then in third, I put Modest Buzelis. I'm pretty high on Modest. I think that he's had a great preseason and a great summer league, and I think that he's going to be able to continue that into the regular season. I didn't want to put him too high because the Bulls didn't fully rebuild. They still have guys like Vucevic or Zach LaVine on the team that are going to be taking shots away. But if they do move on from those guys, or at least one of them, that even opens it up more for Modest, and then he could really put up some crazy numbers. Now moving on to Coach of the Year, I have Taylor Jenkins of the Memphis Grizzlies winning, Ime Udoka of the Houston Rockets in second, and Joe Mazzulla of the Boston Celtics in third. If you guys watched my standings predictions, this would probably make a little bit more sense, but I personally think that the Memphis Grizzlies are going to jump back to where they were pre-injuries. I think last year was just a really bad year for everyone involved, and now they're going to be able to bounce back and be one of those top seeds out west, and I think that Taylor Jenkins is going to get a lot of credit for that, rightfully so. I know the main reason for the Grizzlies jump up if they do end up being towards the top of the conference is because of their injuries and the fact that everyone is really healthy now on the team. But I do think that Taylor Jenkins is a pretty underrated head coach. I think last year he was able to kind of show out how much he's able to maximize his players, because a lot of guys were in and out of the lineup, but the Grizzlies were still a competitive team in a lot of games. They lost a lot of them, but they were at least competitive, and I think that this year we could see them kind of return to winning a bunch of games and really dominating the Western Conference, and like I said, I think Taylor Jenkins deserves a lot of that credit. And like I was mentioning when talking about Reed Shepherd, I do think the Rockets are going to be a playoff team this year, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I think Ime Udoka is a really good head coach in the NBA, and I think he's going to be able to maximize this young team to really take steps and maybe even a leap this season. And again, I think that he deserves a lot of credit for that. And then Joe Mazzulla I threw in here because I do still think that the Boston Celtics are going to probably be the #1 seed out east. And I think, you know, they're probably going to be the best team in the NBA record-wise. So that head coach definitely deserves to get some love for that. Now for Sixth Man of the Year, I have Dante DiVincenzo of the Timberwolves winning this one. Malik Monk is coming in second for the second year in a row. And then Russell Westbrook is third. Honestly, before the trade to Minnesota, I probably would have still put Dante DiVincenzo as my Sixth Man of the Year winner, just because he's coming off a season where he was nuclear. He was putting up crazy numbers, shooting like 40% from three on like 12 attempts per game. Obviously, those numbers are going to take a step back because he's going to be back to his bench role instead of being a starter like he was last year. But I still think he's going to be able to put up those scoring numbers and be a super impactful guy off the bench for the Timberwolves. I also think the Timberwolves are going to have one of the best benches in the NBA, and I think a big part of that is because of Dante. You know, they do have other guys that are going to be key contributors, like Sixth Man of the Year winner from last year, Naz Reid, or Nickeil Alexander-Walker, rookie Rob Dillingham. They have a lot of really good players coming off their bench, but I think Dante is kind of that official like six-man, six-starter type of guy. I could definitely see him closing out a bunch of games for the Timberwolves. His shooting and spacing that he brings is impeccable, but he also plays hard-nosed defense, can play make a little bit as well. He just kind of brings a lot to the court, and having him come off your bench is a super nice luxury, and I think that he's going to win Sixth Man of the Year this year. I have Malik Monk in second. Last year, I actually had him winning over Naz Reid for Sixth Man of the Year. I think he is a super important part of the Sacramento Kings offense. Coming off their bench, he is like one of their best playmakers, one of their best scorers, three-level scorer, operates in the pick and roll, does a whole lot offensively for that team, and I think he deserves a lot of love and credit. He's been one of the best six men for the past few seasons now, and I do think that eventually he deserves at least one of these awards. And then in third, this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I have Russell Westbrook. I think he's going to be really good for the Nuggets coming off their bench. We've already seen in a few preseason games where he's just playmaking his ass off, getting everyone involved off the bench while still being able to get to the rim. He's even knocked down a few three-pointers. I don't expect him to be a great three-point shooter, but still it shows the impact that he can bring. And then also, like I was saying with Dante, I could definitely see Russell Westbrook closing out some games for the Denver Nuggets just because he's a super impactful and versatile player. He brings a lot to the court, and I'm very high on him coming off the bench. Moving on to the newest award, Clutch Player of the Year, I have DeMar DeRozan finally winning his first. Then we have Jimmy Butler coming in second and DeJounte Murray in third. DeMar DeRozan has been one of the clutchest regular season players for the past few seasons now. I believe since the award came out, he's been the second place vote getter each year. And this year, I have him finally winning that. I think the Sacramento Kings, the way that they're constructed and the fact that they're in the Western Conference, I think they're going to be in a lot of really close games. And I know De'Aaron Fox is a super clutch guy, a former Clutch Player of the Year winner, and I think he's going to be able to take a lot of those shots, but I think DeMar is also going to be one of those key guys that really close out games for them. And like I said, he's been runner-up for the past few seasons. This year, I think he finally makes it over the hump and wins it. And second, I have Jimmy Butler, who usually keeps his clutch gene close to him and contained until he's in the playoffs. Then he'll unleash it and go crazy. But after a few disappointing seasons for the Miami Heat, I do think that he's going to be coming into the season a little bit more locked in. He's also on a contract year, so I think he's going to want to really prove that he's worth whatever money he thinks he is. So I think we're going to see a very locked in Jimmy Butler this year, and I think that he's going to really be the guy that kind of wills Miami to a few victories. And then in third, I have DeJounte Murray. Last year for the Hawks, he had a few really clutch shots, closing out games for them. Just, had I think a few game winners as well. And now he's going to the New Orleans Pelicans, who were one of the worst fourth quarter offenses in the NBA last year. I feel like that's kind of just a recipe for success for DeJounte, because he's going to be able to come in and just do what he does best, and that's close out games. And I think the Pelicans are going to be in a bunch of close games in that super tight West, like I was saying with the Kings. And I think that DeJounte Murray can really help them get a few more of those wins compared to what they were last year. Now for one of the most interesting awards, the most improved player. I have Trey Mann winning this one, Emmanuel Quickley coming in second, and Dyson Daniels in third. I do want to say that the way I look at most improved player is the classic way of looking at it, not kind of what they do now. I do not want any top tier, like high lottery picks in most improved player conversations. I don't want Cade Cunningham being in there. I don't want Jalen Williams being in there. I've seen a lot of these names that I feel like have already kind of broken out and improved a lot included in these conversations. I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm going to stick to my guns and do the underrated players that kind of can break out into that 20-point per game scorer, that near all-star level player. And I think Trey Mann can do that. I think he's going to be really good for Charlotte coming off their bench this year, being that scorer. He's a incredibly shifty guy. Getting to the rim is one of his strong suits. And then once he's there, the amount of acrobatic, just like double clutch around, jelly on that, like he has so many crazy finishes. But then he can also step back, hit you with a three, get to his mid-range game, play make a little bit as well. Offensively, he is the full package. And I was pretty high on Trey Mann at the second half of last year when he first got traded to Charlotte. Watching them, they were really fun to watch, and he was a big part of that. Now, I feel like a lot of other people are kind of waking up to Trey Mann from this preseason because he's been showing out, and I think he's going to be able to continue that into the regular season and be the most improved player this year. Then in second, I have Emmanuel Quickley. Now, this is going to be his first full season with the Toronto Raptors and his new role as their starting point guard, and I feel like you're going to be able to see that reflected in his numbers. I could see him averaging near double-digit assists, around like 7 to 9 assists per game. Way more than what he's had in years past with the New York Knicks coming off their bench. And then I think his scoring opportunities are still going to be there, probably a little bit more as well. It's basically Scotty Barnes and then him and RJ Barrett like kind of tied for that secondary scorer right there. So I think the numbers are really going to be there. I think he's super talented. If you guys look back to my video I made when the Toronto Raptors first traded OG Anunoby in exchange for Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, I said that Emmanuel Quickley should be the guy that Raptors fans are really looking at more than RJ Barrett. I still stand on that, and I think that this year is where IQ is going to show everyone and elevate to that higher tier. And then for third place, I put Dyson Daniels. I was going back and forth between him and his Atlanta Hawks teammate Jalen Johnson. Last year, if Jalen Johnson played 65 games, I would have had him as my most improved player. I think that last year is where he made that big jump. I think he went from like 9 points per game to 16. His rebounds went up, his assists went up, his efficiencies went up. Just all around the definition of most improved player. That's what Jalen Johnson had last year. And I've seen some people include him in this year and say that he's going to take that next jump to be a 20-point per game scorer. It's definitely a possibility because, DeJounte's not there. He is now the official second option. We saw the jump he made last year. Hopefully he can continue that. I can see it happening, but I kept him as an honorable mention and put Dyson Daniels as my actual third guy. I just think coming over for the Pelicans here in Atlanta, he's going to have a lot more opportunity. I think that he is going to be averaging probably around double-digit points. He's going to have a few assists in there as well. And just compared to the really limited role he had in the early of his career with the Pelicans, this year, numbers-wise, it's going to be a huge jump. And last but not least, the Defensive Player of the Year award. I have Bam Adebayo winning this one, Victor Wembanyama coming in second yet again, and Anthony Davis in third. I feel like the narratives have finally caught up to Bam Adebayo, and a big majority of people in the NBA realize that he is the best, or at least one of the best defenders in the entire NBA, one of the most versatile guys. There's really not much defensively Bam cannot do. So I feel like if the Heat have a top 5 to top 10 defense and are solidified in the playoffs during the regular season, having a pretty good year, I think that Bam Adebayo is one of the favorites to win the Defensive Player of the Year award. I do think that the narrative-wise, it's definitely Victor Wembanyama. I feel like people are kind of jumping the gun real quick. I know he is a super talented, one-of-a-kind prospect. He averaged like 3 blocks per game last year as a rookie, all defensive first team. Incredible defender, for sure, incredible defender. But I think the Spurs are just, as a team, not going to be very good. I think defensively, they still are going to be towards the bottom of the league, even though Wemby is such a great defender. And I just personally am not comfortable giving the Defensive Player of the Year award to a team that's the 13th seed. I would want them at least in the playoffs. I can understand if that's not part of your curriculum, though, and you don't really take that into account. And if that's the case, then sure, you can give it to Wemby. But me personally, I want my Defensive Player of the Year to be in the playoffs. And then for third, I have Anthony Davis. I feel like Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo are in a weird area because both of these guys are regarded as one of the best defenders in the NBA, and neither of them have gotten recognized with that in a Defensive Player of the Year award. This year, I could see Anthony Davis having that award in a perfect world where he puts up the numbers, the Lakers are really successful and all that. But more than likely, I feel like it would probably go to Bam or Wemby. And that is my full award predictions for the 2024-2025 season. Let me know in the comments below which one you agreed most with and which one you disagreed most with. I love starting dialogues with you guys, so make sure you leave a comment below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.